Jessica never thought her life would turn into a countdown of the days between Saturdays. Every Saturday at exactly 2 o'clock. She approached the glass dividing the world into before and after, and saw the same face. Not Kevin. Kevin had disappeared within the first week. She saw her mother. "Hold on, daughter," she said through the crackling speaker. "I'll think of something." Jessica nodded, though they both knew she wouldn't. The sentence had already been passed. 4 years. For something she didn't do. And it all began so stupidly and so beautifully, the way only the most terrible love begins. Kevin appeared in her life at the end of August, when the air smelled of apples and approaching autumn. He worked as a mechanic in her father's garage, and Jessica happened to stop by to pick up the car keys. He stood under the hood, wiping his hands with an oily rag, and smiled at her as if he'd known her all her life. "Are you the boss's daughter?" he asked. "I thought a boss couldn't have such a beautiful daughter." Jessica laughed. Usually, such compliments infuriated her. But Kevin said it so easily, without pretense, as if stating a fact. "The sky is blue. The grass is green. You're beautiful." They started dating a week later. A month later, Jessica moved in with him, into a rented apartment on the outskirts of town. Her father was against it. "That guy will end up nowhere," he said. "He drinks, he plays around, he can't hold down a job." "You just don't know him," Jessica replied. She didn't know him either. But she thought she did. When he laughed, wrinkles gathered at the corners of his eyes, and she was ready to forgive him anything. And she had to forgive him often. Kevin would sometimes stay away from home for 3 days. Then he'd return with flowers and promises that it would be the last time. He lost one job after another, not because he was a bad mechanic, but because he couldn't get up in the morning. But when he was sober and well rested, he was the best. He cooked breakfast, told funny stories, made plans for how they would buy a house by the lake and get a dog. "Just be patient," he said. "I'll fix it." Jessica endured. Because she loved. And love, she believed, is the ability to endure. She remembered that evening in details that no memory could erase. They were visiting his friend. Kevin drank heavily. Jessica rarely drank. Kevin always drove. But today he was so drunk that for the first time, she was afraid. "Give me the keys," she said quietly as they stepped outside. "I'll drive. Don't you trust me?" Kevin staggered, leaning against the hood. "I'm afraid for you. And for us." He laughed. He opened the door, got behind the wheel, and started the engine. Jessica stood on the sidewalk, clenching her fists. She wanted to turn around and leave. Call a cab. Screw him. But she loved him. And love is when you get into a drunk driver's car because you're afraid he won't make it without you. "Are you coming?" he shouted from the window. She climbed into the passenger seat, buckled her seatbelt, and closed her eyes. "Let's go. Just go slow. Don't tell me how to drive," Kevin snapped and stepped on the gas. They had an argument on the way. Jessica screamed at him to slow down. He screamed at her to shut up. She reached for the steering wheel. He pushed her hand away. The car skidded. Jessica didn't understand what had happened. A thud. A scream. The glass shattered. She opened her eyes. The windshield was shattered. There was a dent in the hood. And a few meters away from the car, a man lay, not moving. "Kevin," she whispered. "Kevin, we hit someone." He sat there, staring into space. He began to sober up instantly. That only happens when you're really scared. He looked at her, then at the body on the pavement. "You were driving," he said. Jessica couldn't believe her ears. "What? You drove? You?" "I was drunk. I don't remember anything." She looked at him. At the man for whom she'd left home, fought with her father, tolerated his drinking and taking time off. And suddenly she saw the real him. Not the one who brought flowers and made plans, but the one who was now deciding whose life was worth more. "Kevin, you were driving." He turned to her. There was a coldness in his eyes she'd never seen before. "If I go to jail, It'll be a second term. I'll get 7 years. You want to bury me? And they'll give me probation, right? Jessica smiled bitterly. Because I'm a woman. Because you don't have a criminal record. And you weren't drunk. You were just driving. An accident. A year or 2 of probation. That's a lie. This is our life. Jessica, I'm not abandoning you. I'll be there for you. I'll come to you every day. I'll hire the best lawyer. I love you. But if I go to jail, we're both lost. She looked at him. At the pavement. At the man who might already be dead because Kevin couldn't resist drinking. And she made her decision. When the police arrived, she said, I was driving. Kevin was a passenger. He was silent. He didn't even nod. He just stood there, his face blank. The man on the pavement died in the hospital. For the first 2 weeks, Kevin came. He sat across from her in the waiting room, squeezed her hands across the table, and told her he was looking for a lawyer, that he would sort everything out. That they would be together. Hold on, baby, he said. I'll get you out. Then he started coming less frequently. First, once every 3 days. Then once a week. Then he called and said he was having problems at his new job. That he was moving, and that he'd visit soon. She waited. Every day, she peered into the windows of the prison corridor, hoping he'd come in. He didn't. A month later, her lawyer, hired by her mother, not Kevin, told her Kevin had moved to another city. Found a new girlfriend. Not answering her calls. He hadn't hired a lawyer. There was no truth in his promises. Jessica didn't cry. She couldn't. There was such emptiness inside that tears simply couldn't come. She'd given him her freedom. 4 years of her life. And he'd just up and left. Her father never came. He called once, said, I warned you, and hung up. The friends who had shared coffee with her the day before and sworn eternal friendship were gone. No letters, no packages. No calls. In prison, Jessica realized one simple thing. Love isn't measured by how much you're willing to give. It's measured by how much someone else is willing to give. Kevin wasn't willing to give anything. But every Saturday, at exactly 2 o'clock, Jessica would go to the glass and see her mother. A small, stooped woman who worked 2 jobs to deliver packages. Who had forgotten how to smile, but who always said, Hold on, daughter. I'm here. Her mother brought news from outside. She said Kevin was married. That he had a daughter. That he'd bought a house. I don't care, Jessica would say. It's true. Her mother didn't believe her. But she didn't ask. One day, 2 years later, her mother came with news that made Jessica's insides turn cold. The police are here for him, her mother said. Someone filed a statement. The witness who saw Kevin driving. He kept quiet the whole time, but then he found out you were in jail. And he couldn't take it anymore. Jessica sat silently. What happens now? She asked. Kevin went to jail. He got 5 years. For hiding the truth. And for a repeat drunk driving offense, he got caught again while you were in jail. And my sentence? They're reviewing the trial. You might be released. Jessica closed her eyes. There was no joy inside. No relief, only fatigue, and a strange, heavy feeling, like ash. She was released after 6 months. 4 years turned into 2.5. She walked out on a rainy Tuesday. No one was there to greet her. Her mother died 3 months before her release. Her heart couldn't handle 2 jobs and the commute to prison every Saturday. Jessica found out about it a week before her release. The guards told her. She stood in the shower for 2 hours, until the water turned ice cold. She didn't cry. There was no one to cry with. She was released with a small bag of things and her mother's phone, which they had given to her at the prison office. There was one unread message on the phone. From her mother. Sent the day before her death. Daughter, I so wanted to wait. Don't judge me. Live. Please. Live. And never forgive him. He's not worth your tears. But I'm worth it. Don't cry for me. I'm where no one will put me. Jessica sat on a bench near the prison gates in the rain, looking at the empty road. Kevin was serving his sentence in another colony. Her father never called. She had no friends left. She stood up, adjusted her bag, and walked into town. She didn't know where. She didn't know why. But her mother said, live. And she decided that at least she would do this. A week later, Jessica got a job as a cleaner at the hospital. A month later, she rented a room in a dorm. 3 months later, she was promoted to nurse's aide. She still works there. She doesn't drink. She never drove again. And she never told anyone what really happened that night. Kevin got out after 4 years. Early. He tried to find her, He wrote letters. Called from other people's numbers. In one letter, he wrote, "I'll explain everything to you. I was a fool. I still love you." Jessica read the letter, tore it up, and threw it away. She didn't reply. She realized one thing that you can't understand without being behind bars. Love that demands you rot for it isn't love. It's a deal. And in that deal, she was the only one who paid. And her mother paid with her life. Jessica goes to the cemetery every Saturday. She sits on the bench by her mother's grave and is silent. Sometimes she talks. Everything she didn't get to say while she was alive. And at the end she always adds, "You were right. I'm strong, because you made me this way. Thank you for not abandoning me." Even when everyone else did. And she leaves. To her room. To her life. Without Kevin. Without a past. Without illusions.